Hi everybody, it's Moody Boo and I am back with another list, and this one is kind of in honor of spring being around the corner, because I don't know about you guys, I'm sure I can talk for everybody pretty much when I say we're over winter. Done. Finito. Let's move on to spring and some happier times, shall we? Yeah, that's my plan. So even though it's in the teens here and snow is on the ground, I think because of that, I'm just over it. I am just going to visualize myself on a beach somewhere, preferably not in the Arctic. I will say that. That's a beach I don't really want to lounge out on. But we're talking, I would even settle for not even tropical, just semi-warmish. But there's hardly any place in the country right now that's like that. So even Hawaii got snow on the mountains. I don't know. Feels like a deep freeze to me. But I want to just pretend spring is very close. I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers and my toes and my eyes that we're almost done with all of this horribleness. So, because that's all winter really is to me. And I've hated snow since I was a kid. Just so you know, this isn't a new development. This is something that's, I was talking to my husband about it last night, and he was like, well, I loved as a kid doing this and that and the other. Now, I was raised on snowmobiles. I love going snowmobiling, but I hated it being in the snow. I would have rather it been an all-terrain mobile. Preferably, yes. So I did it because it was one of the few fun things to do in the snow, and also sledding. But when it came to just going out and having snowball fights and hanging out making forts in the snow with my friends, no, that wasn't my thing. I liked hanging out by the fireplace reading a book or playing with my Barbies. So I've never been a snow person, so I am really in the wrong place. I need to move to Hawaii. I keep telling my husband that, and he's just not convinced at this point. So I'm still working on it. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I am going to be doing my top 5 IRIS perfumes, because Iris is always, and the smell of IRIS perfumes really reminds me of spring. Now, I also have a caveat that none of these are brand new IRIS perfumes. Here's the thing. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with IRIS. Sometimes I'm really in the mood for it, and that usually is just like a 2 to 4 week window in the springtime where I really, really, really enjoy wearing it. And then I'm really over it. So, and I don't really wear it much the rest of the year. There are a couple of exceptions, but so yeah, there you go. Am I done with all my caveats? I think so. So let's just get started. And I do have an honorable mention. Actually, I had 2. James Heeley Iris de Nuit. I went through, I didn't have a full bottle, but I had a big decant of that. And I did go through that, and I almost bought a full bottle, but I stopped shy of that because of my issue with Iris. I thought, I have enough Iris. I don't really need to be re-upping my Iris de Nuit. So when I went through my Iris de Nuit, it was just too powdery. Between the violet and the iris, and there's angelica in there, it was just too much for me. It was a beautiful perfume, but you know, I got a little thing against powdery perfumes. Too much anyway. Some I like. There are exceptions to the rule, but that's not one of them. So, and the next honorable mention is by Hermes, and this is IRIS. This is kind of a almost cold metallic sweet kind of a perfume. I put some on my hand because I couldn't decide if it was going to be an honorable mention or actually in the list, because I really do love this stuff. But it's not as good, in my opinion, as the rest on the list. So it had to go in the honorable mention category. And, pretty purple bottle, you know, I love that stuff. So yeah, it had to be on the list one way or the other. And it really is pretty. It's very earthy, like I said, cold, metallic, almost smelling kind of an iris. And I think I get that cold metallicness from the neroli and the coriander, maybe that kind of a combo, combined with the iris. But that's what it does. It's like smelling an icy iris in a metal vase. So that's what I get from it anyway. Performance isn't great on it either. It lasts for me 4 to 6 hours, maybe. No, not 6, maybe 4 to 5. Yeah, I'll give it that. And when it dries down, it gets a little warmer, a little woodier, a little earthier, which is my favorite part of it. But by the time it dries down, it's almost gone. So I don't get to enjoy that part of it very often. But all right, IRIS by Hermes. Next. Now we're into the top 5. And I actually am going to put these in order. I don't do that very often because my mind changes so much, but because these aren't new IRIS perfumes, these are perfumes I have had for a minute. I think the latest of these that I purchased, I mean the newest one to my collection is probably at least 2 to 3 years old. So yeah, I thought I'd just go ahead and put them in order. So number 5 is by Christian Dior, and that's Bois d'Argent. And of course I have these little, they're huge decants. I think this is an ounce. I'm not sure, I don't remember. Doing splits and stuff, you know, I get these big ass decants. For me, Bois d'Argent is a little sweet, it's a little dry. I think that's from the woody notes that are in there. It's resinous. It's got a hint of gourmand in there, I think, from some of the honey and some of those other notes. It's really a beautiful perfume. But it's still not, I think, worthy of being at the top of my list. I really, really love it, but not as much as I love the rest. Performance on this is about, I get 6-7 hours on it, usually with 2 sprays. And again, I am speaking of all of these are more my springtime perfumes because that's really when I wear them the most. Bois d'Argent and 1 or 2 others I do wear a little more year-round, but my real strict IRIS perfumes I only do in the spring. This is beautiful. These are all really unisex in my opinion as well. So Christian Dior Bois d'Argent is my number 5. Number 4 is by Van Cleef Arpels, and that's Bois Darice. This one I definitely love more than Bois d'Argent, but not a lot more. They have a little bit of similarities, but I think they are 2 different perfumes. This one to me is a little more, it has a little more tart to it. It's a little sweet. It's got some dry woodiness in there. And it's got some depth to it though. I find a lot of IRIS perfumes don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a ton of transition. I'm sure it's because the perfumers want to try to keep that iris note throughout the wearing of the perfume. But because of that, it makes me like it a little less. I'm a little polarized in my own mind, a little on the schizophrenic side on my affair with IRIS. So it's never a good look if a note makes you a little on the crazy side. And IRIS does for me, because I really almost get whiplash how back and forth I go with the note. This one is really pretty though. Oh, yeah, it's really nice. It's much woodier, I think, than Bois d'Argent, which I really appreciate. I love a good woody. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I'm from the Evergreen State. Of course I like woody notes. It's not too sweet. It's polite. It can be professional, I think. I think all of these IRIS perfumes you really could wear in professional settings because it's almost a formal note to me. And maybe that's part of my issue with it, is that it's too formal. I'm not a very formal kind of person, if you haven't noticed. So too much formality makes me uncomfortable. And that's another reason I have to be really in the mood to wear any of these. And I love Van Cleef Arpels. I think they're really underrated for their perfumes. And Bois Darice is another beauty from the house. So, all right, next. I'm trying to shorten these up a little bit so I don't chat quite so much. Because I chat much too much. But anyway, next. And this one could have been higher on the list, but the two ahead of it are just too good not to be 1 and 2. So that's why I had to put Tiamo Iris by Hilde Soliani as a number 3. And this is a beautiful candied iris to me. It's so good. It's probably the sweetest one on the list. Oh yes, it's iris and like a candied almond is what I get out of it. It's so pretty. Oh, some landed on me. Now there are a lot of more notes than just like a candied almond and iris in this perfume, but that's mainly what I get. It doesn't have a big trajectory either. It just barely blips. And when it dries down, it gets just a hint less sweeter, a little less candied, and a little warmer, a little earthier, but it's mostly about the candied almonds and the iris for me, and it's so pretty. This is probably the most feminine one, if you want to put a label on it. Of all of them in this list, this is probably the most feminine. But, oh, I love it. And it lasts for me pretty good for an iris perfume. I'd say 7 to 8 hours. And it's much more fun than the rest of the iris ones. Iris is one of those notes that kind of takes itself too seriously. That's another issue I have with it. And this one is not that. This one does not take itself seriously. Hilde made the perfect iris perfume for just fun and frivolity. But it still can be worn in formal settings, I think. So I had to put Hilde on the list, of course. What are you thinking? Next. Now I really went back and forth as to which one would be number 1 because I love both of these. But number 2 is by Carner Barcelona, and this is D600. This is such a pretty, it's like a sweet, almost gourmandy kind of an iris. Oh, wow. This perfume, D600, even though it's sweet and has a hint of gourmandy, I find it to be very formal. It absolutely could be formal, festive, frivolity, fun, frisky, and whatever other F words you want to use. I won't judge. Anyway, this is just this beautiful iris, and there's vanilla and cardamom and vetiver in there, and there's some spices and some wood and some florals. But for me, it's all about the vanilla, the cardamom, the iris, and then the vetiver just gives it a little bit of tang and tart and earthiness to it. And it's gorgeous. I love that stuff. So, and it lasts really well too for me. I get 8 hours out of it for an iris perfume. Seriously, that's really good. Maybe even 9 sometimes with 2 sprays. Very, very, very unisex. In fact, I think more guys wear this than women do, which I find a shame because it's just beautiful, beautiful perfume. Carner Barcelona D600. And my number 1 iris is a sweet, a little tart, sexy, fruity kind of an iris. And that's by Ramon Monegal, and this is Impossible Iris. Oh my God, this is by far the sexiest iris out of the bunch. Oh, 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 it's so pretty. It's carnal. It's a bit narcotic. It's a bit floral. It's sweet. It's got a bit of raspberry in there that gives us this fruity tang to it. It's a bit tropical, because it's got a little bit of ylang-ylang in there, and I think there's some jasmine in there. So the jasmine isn't necessarily indolic, but it's really close. It's very sexy jasmine, because I'm sure that's where the sexy is coming from, is the jasmine. Oh my God, it's so pretty. So yeah, festive, frivolity, frisky, formal, fun. This thing can do it all. And this is one of the ones, this one in Hilde's and Bois Darice. I have worn those at different times of the year. Now this is an IRIS perfume that my husband actually commented on years ago. Now I haven't worn it around him in quite some time, but he did like this one. So, and I just remembered that. It had nothing to do with putting it at number one. I just remembered that. And oh, it easily lasts 8 hours on me, pretty easily. And this is one I think you could wear year round, but, and I have worn it at other times of the year, but it's just, when I wear it, I feel like it's springtime. I feel rejuvenated. I feel like there's rebirth in the air when I wear this. I mean, I just expect to see, you know, buds on the trees and robins starting to come in our yard again and squirrels coming out and starting to collect the stuff left over from winter. And I mean, I just picture springtime when I wear this. It's so pretty. By far, my favorite IRIS, Impossible Iris by Ramon Monegal. And I forgot I had it. It's a rediscovery. I just rediscovered it probably, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. I hadn't touched it in probably 2 years. So, and I am leaving it out. I'm putting it on the shelf over here because I'm going to be wearing it very soon. So that was my top 5 IRIS perfumes with a couple of honorable mentions in honor of springtime and to kick the ass of winter, get it the hell out of here. So, yep, I'm ready. I'm ready. I don't know about you, but I'm ready. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I get my second injection tonight, my COVID vaccination. So I'm going to be down for the count for a few days. So I'm trying to get some recording done so I can edit, get it posted for this weekend. And hopefully that'll happen. It just depends on how shitty I feel after my vaccine. But that means it's working. The worse I feel, the better it's working for me. And that's another thing I can in the ass is COVID once I get my vaccination. Still be wearing a mask, still be doing my due diligence, but if enough people get it, masks may not be our new normal in the future. So, all right, everybody, I hope you join me again soon, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and comment if you want. If you don't, it's all good. I still love you. Sound like a monk or something. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, all right, use your nose. Peace.